My name is Jamen Shively, and I'm co-founder and president of radish.org.
And what is radish.org?
Radish.org is a platform it's an international platform for the creation, testing, and implementation of solutions to the world's most pressing, most daunting problems. And what I can do is, and the first problem that we're really digging into to solve by a specific date is the problem of world hunger. We have committed to end world hunger by 2020. And I've actually got some visuals I can show you that really, kind of paint the picture and give a great overview. Are you good with visuals, Shanoah?
Yes.
You want to see some? Oh, great. Let me just find this PowerPoint slide, and then I'll just start presenting. So Radish is a platform for the simultaneous and holistic transformation of all the world's most pressing problems: hunger, environmental problems, social problems, human rights, education, healthcare, disease, climate change, desertification, the whole gamut. And we've kind of grouped them into different platforms. So think of Radish as kind of like this big Uber platform. And Shanoah, please don't hesitate to interrupt at any time if I'm going too fast, or if you have a question or a comment or anything like that.
Okay.
The first platform that we're really developing intensively is the Hungerless Games, and that's to end world hunger by 2020. Another platform we call Whole World, and that's focused on, just as it sounds, the whole world, the entire planet, all of the global systems that maintain life on Earth, including the climatic systems, hydrologic cycles, and the soil, the land, the desertification, all that, all the different ways in which we're harming the planet. How do we, stop the harm, and how do we, protect the world and reverse the damage that's been done over the past centuries, accelerating in the last several decades. And the third platform is we call Compassionate Society, and that's focused on transforming the world's social issues, basically the people-to-people issues, whether they're local, whether they're human rights, whether they have to do with war and terrorism, anything that's basically among people. But of course, all that impacts the whole world. So all these systems ultimately are interlinked, all these platforms. But the first one I want to focus on getting into some detail on is the first one, which is the Hungerless Games. And so, if you'll indulge me for a moment. So the Hungerless Games is a global private sector initiative to permanently end world hunger by 2020. And as it is a platform for international collaboration for creating and implementing solutions to world hunger. So it's both for actually coming up with the solutions and then actually implementing them. So the focus is to create solutions, multiple solutions. There's just one solution to world hunger. There's going to be many different solutions for different countries, for different geographies, for different urban versus rural versus nomadic, etc. And there could be hundreds, thousands of different solutions. But we're first going to focus on two solutions to world hunger. And I'm going to talk about these one at a time. I'm actually going to start with solution 2, but first I want to point out there's going to be a very rich symbiosis, a mutual reinforcing between the two solutions that's actually going to cause them to grow exponentially in the process of ending hunger. The first, pardon me?
No.
Everything good?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see you guys. All I can see is the screen. So I really invite you both to just jump in with questions or comments at any time. But the first solution is the community cafe, which, and here we are in beautiful Rosamond, California. This is where we launched the very first community Cafe event anywhere in the world was on December 5th, 2015, at the annual Parade of Lights in Rosamond. And what we did was we offered free food, free dinner, basically, to the entire community of Rosamond. And we we had 5,000, what would you call it, 5,000 entrees prepared for the whole community. And we ended up giving away all of the food, 100% of the food. And there were quite a few families that took home quite a bit of the surplus. We made sure we made plenty of surplus for that reason. And the point is to feed everyone who wants it, everyone who needs food, nutritious food 3 times a day for free. So basically make nutritious, sustainable food a basic human right. Not, something that if you have money, then you can eat. And if you don't, well, you're kind of SOL, buddy, Yeah. Wish I could help. I mean, that's just not good enough. In this world of incredible abundance that we live in, how can we not feed people? So, by the way, I just want to point out my partner, Eric Miller, he is now in Spain working with our local Spanish team, our local team in Torrejon, just outside of Madrid, on developing the actually Eric and our other partner Crystalline, both Crystalline and Rodriguez and Eric Miller are in Spain right now as we speak. In fact, just before this interview, I was on a hangout with both of them and the entire Spanish team actually, and a lot of Crystalline's relatives. She's actually born in Spain. She's from Spain. A lot of her relatives are on the team in Spain there. So we're developing a community cafe initiative in Spain. We're developing another one in Japan, and soon we're going to be launching a community cafe initiative in Haiti, in the country of Haiti. So this is an initiative that we are taking global and country by country, and the model will be different in each country. Let me just send a quick text here.
For the Rosamond Parade of Lights, where did you get all of the food from?
Oh yeah. So since it was we haven't set up our first permanent community cafe in Rosamond yet. So that being the case, we worked with local restaurants, Crazy Otto's and Sal's Mexican Restaurant, to supply 100% of the food, and in fact all the equipment that we would need to keep it warm, and utensils and napkins, and we had places for people to wash their hands, and there were restroom facilities nearby, and it was just perfect. And also Aqua Azul was kind enough to donate the space for us to have the community cafe event. So anyway, so the community cafe is one solution. It was called, I had it over here as Solution 2. Voila, community cafes. It's international. The idea is to feed everyone. Well, it's gonna cost a lot of money to build out this entire community cafe initiative globally, and so on the order of tens of billions of dollars per year, right? Let's call it, I don't know, just to give it a number, let's maybe call it $80 billion a year, $50 billion a year. The United Nations estimates a little over $30 billion a year is the budget needed to end hunger, but let's just round it up to 50 for now. So $50 billion per year is what's needed every single year in order to fund and supply build, fund, and supply community cafes all around the world to end world hunger. So, how are we going to raise all that money? Well, part of the answer is in the other half of the symbiosis, which is that the community cafes are going to be gobbling up all this money so they can feed everyone, and they're going to return success in the form of people fed, entire communities fed, entire nations fed, until we finally end world hunger by 2020. That success is going to fuel the global economic engine, and the global economic engine of which I speak, we call compassionate economy, and it is a membership organization that we're actually in the process of building of compassionate companies, certified compassionate companies, companies which donate 100% of their profits to eradicating hunger, and then plus plus signifies that once we have achieved that goal of ending world hunger by 2020 at the latest, and the compassionate economy keeps growing from that point forward, as it will, then what do we donate the surplus profit to? And so that's what the plus plus is all about, and we'll get to that. But the other two pillars are that the companies have to be socially transformational and environmentally sustainable. And the very first such company is the Japanese fashion house Sato Hemp. And the Sato family in Japan has the longest legacy, the oldest legacy of hemp in the world, going back over a dozen generations, way back into the Edo period, over 400 years ago. And so being pioneers in the hemp industry and being an extremely compassionate family and compassionate enterprise, they signed up to be the very first compassionate company. And so, this is just a mock-up of a Sato Hemp T-shirt. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign to promote these T-shirts, because 100% of the profit goes to end world hunger. So they're going to be funding, the profits are going to be funding initially these community cafe initiatives all over the world. We're going to put a pretty intense focus on Haiti, because that's where the need is the greatest of the four countries where we're launching first. So anyway.
I can take you to the president.
Here we are. This is a colleague, Jay, and I. We visited Japan and visited with the Satos. Here's Takuya Sato. He's the president of Sato Hemp, and we've got the names here at the bottom. But basically, we got Kinjo-san, Jay. He works with me and Radish, Katsu-san, me, Takuya-san. We call him the Hemperor of Japan, not the Emperor of Japan, the Hemperor of Japan. Now, he doesn't call himself that because he's for a number of reasons, but anyway. And then we have Takashi Baker. His dad is American, his mom is Japanese, perfectly bilingual. Yuki-san and Caleb-san. Now, Caleb-san probably speaks the best Japanese of the whole bunch. His Japanese is impeccable. He's an American from Minnesota, but I mean, he was been fanatical about Japanese since he was a teenager, and he's lived in Japan for over 5 years and translated for government, and he's just amazing. So anyway, we've got the dream team in Japan, and while we were there, we were talking about how basically the Satos are basically the new Beatles, because they're leading a global movement to end world hunger by 2020. Right, so here you got Takuya-san, the Emperor of Japan, Takashi, knows Jamie. We were there in September and October last year. So anyway, so that's kind of the big picture of the hungerless games, or at least these two solutions. And of course, there's going to be many more solutions. And in fact, there are many other solutions that already exist, but simply need funding. So this global economic engine, we're not just going to fund. It's not just going to fund community cafes. It's going to fund all kinds of solutions to hunger. And so, if compassionate economy is the global economic engine, Sato Hemp is a component of that engine. Which component? It's the starter motor. Mm-hmm. Sato Hemp is going to kickstart the global economic engine to fund the permanent eradication of world hunger by 2020. And in the process, Sato Hemp is putting compassion in fashion. This is actually a concept that Tiffany came up with. So Tiffany, why don't you let loose on compassion in fashion for a while? Give me a breather, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So of course, for Fashion Week, because Sato Hemp is a clothing-based, it's like a hemp clothing-based company. So we have, like you saw, T-shirts, hats. We were thinking about launching things for Fashion Week or during other festivals like Magic that happens in Las Vegas, to be able to kind of you're making hemp cool, but for a purpose. So then we thought to do compassion in fashion. It rhymed. It just was like a good tagline. But people want to be a part of things that mean something. And as we know, in 2016, hemp, cannabis, those happen to be the cool things amongst people these days. But it's not changing. How can you make it change lives? And so now for people to wear clothing and be able to give those proceeds into feeding world hunger, why not? And so we're making that like a staple within the fashion community.
Nice. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so that when people buy T-shirts, it's going straight to, and we're one of those companies where we're not taking proceeds. It's literally all going to the fights. So yeah.
All the profits go to ending world hunger.
All the profits.
Now, does that mean we don't pay salaries? Of course not. We pay salaries. Think of like Newman's Own. Newman's Own was really a big part of our inspiration because they donate 100% of their profits to various different charities. We're simply focusing that laser beam on ending world hunger by 2020 and opening it up beyond just one brand like Newman's Own. We're creating, initially a family of brands led by Sato Hemp, the Robin Hood brands, because it's like, selling to the rich and giving to the poor, selling to the rich and feeding the poor. So Sato Hemp is the first of the Robin Hood brands, but ultimately we're creating an entire compassionate sector of the global economy as thousands upon thousands of companies either are formed by compassionate entrepreneurs who see this as, a giant global movement that's building and, and have the heart and the foresight to jump in early and be one of the leaders of the revolution of compassionate revolution. So the fashion industry, which Tiffany is very experienced and has great connections in and just great sense for, is really a perfect place to start because it's probably one of the most dynamic industries on the entire planet. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, if you look at the auto supply industry, it hasn't changed in like 50 years. You need an axle, you need a bearing grease, got that. I mean, it's just, it's just not dynamically changing. There aren't like new brands coming in and all, it's, but the fashion industry is just constantly changing, right? When you go into Nordstrom's or Macy's or wherever you shop, American Apparel, I mean, you're just, whatever looks good, it's not what brand. Look, if it's something like jeans or underwear or something, okay, fine, you stick with a brand you like. But if it's a shirt, it's like, what looks good, right? Yeah. So people are willing to change brands, and now that Tiffany is a young millennial. I'm 47, but Tiffany just is you millennials, you millennials are just amazing in terms of how compassionate you are and progressive and revolutionary, and it just so who better than Tiffany to lead the charge of putting compassion in fashion along with the Satos, right? The Satos are the first company, but being that they're beholden to their family name and their brand, I was just so thrilled when Tiffany stepped up to say, hey, I can help get the whole industry on board. All these fashion designers, many of whom are extremely compassionate. Hey, create some compassionate fashion brands. Brilliant.
That was
smart. So that's where we are. So I don't know. You could go back, I guess, to the presentation.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be really great.
Yeah. All right. So Shanoah, I hope all this is interesting to you.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. And please jump in with any questions. You're being an extremely good listener, and I just want you to feel totally confident in just saying, hey, stop, what about this, what about that? I want this to be a conversation, not a monologue.
Okay.
So Sato Hemp, again, it's the starter motor of the global economic engine called compassionate economy, and we're putting compassion in fashion. So compassion in fashion becomes almost like an even bigger starter mechanism. But here's the beautiful thing: the fashion industry is so gigantic, as Tiffany can point out. I mean, it measures easily in the hundreds of billions of dollars per year, if not trillions. And so getting a good slice of the fashion industry to go compassionate, right, would be sufficient to end world hunger. That would fund the entire annual budget of all the community cafes in the world, about on the order of magnitude $50 billion per year. And the beautiful thing about that is, when you buy compassionate, it's not just that the profits are going to end world hunger. The company itself, to be a compassionate company, has to be socially transformational. It has to take really good care of its people, of its workers, right? So we're talking about actually transforming the entire garment industry, from India to Indonesia to Los Angeles, right? From being a kind of sweatshop maximize profit mentality to a compassionate mentality. Now, are you going to pay more for your garments? Well, yeah. But in the case of hemp garments, they'll last longer. You'll keep them longer. And what a beautiful statement to make! Can you imagine wearing that Sato hemp T-shirt, right?
Yes.
And just like saying, "Hey, I'm part of this compassionate revolution." You're darn right, I'm part of it. But let's not forget, these are compassionate economy and all of its all this is compassionate economy. Everything up here, compassion in fashion, economic engine. This is all the compassionate economy, but that is just one solution, and community cafe is yet another solution. Now we think those may become the big two, right? That together work together, like to end world hunger. But there are many solutions, and let's keep in mind that the Hungerless Games itself is but one platform on Radish. There are others. And if we take that platform perspective, we can actually look at the compassionate economy itself as a platform, and the community cafe as a platform. The compassionate economy supports two other platforms. Sato Hemp is a platform for launching this whole thing, and Compassion in Fashion is a platform for transforming the fashion industry and ending world hunger at the same time. Now, as we said, compassionate economy can grow beyond fashion to virtually any other industry. Why not have a compassionate chocolate bar, a compassionate beer, right? A compassionate, eco travel company that will take you sailing to exotic destinations with zero carbon footprint, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. These are just examples, but really, it can go on and on. Because there's going to be this amazing virtuous cycle between the compassionate economy and the community cafes. Community cafes are going to be ending hunger with the profits from the compassionate economy, and with all the more pride and passion people are going to be wearing their Sato Hemp apparel and other compassionate brands. And the thing that really ties it all together is the certification that we're in the process of developing. And in fact, we need the help of many different experts in disciplines as diverse as manufacturing and food, and the testing of products to service sectors of the economy. We need so much expertise to develop this robust certification, Triple C, Certified Compassionate Companies. So we're a private sector led initiative. So because with the private sector we can be very dynamic and we can expand to other industries very quickly. So here we have the compassionate economy as a platform. I'll go back a couple slides. From growing from small beginnings initially, everything starts small in the fashion industry, to other industries, to spanning the entire global economy, right? So we can just grow and grow and grow and support many other platforms and many other solutions as it grows and expands. And then of course, let's keep in mind, to keep it all in the big picture, Hungerless Games is one platform among three big platforms that we're working on or conceiving of for the big Uber Radish platform. So let me see here, but back to Rosamond. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how important Rosamond is for us, because in addition to pioneering the first community cafe project in the world, Rosamond is so uniquely positioned on planet Earth to be a place where we can start a large industrial enterprise of assembling community cafes into 40-foot shipping containers and shipping them all around the world. And we actually want to do a documentary television series documenting all of this called the Emperor's New Clothes. Because look, you know the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so, and it's actually universal. They even have the same story in Japan and other cultures, because it speaks of a universal truth, and that is the basically the propensity of human beings to get attached to a certain way of looking at something, and they get blinded by that, and then they miss the obvious. In our case, we as a world have been blinded by the fact that we've been blinded by so many things, by materialism, by this notion of scarcity that we all have to hoard, hoard, hoard. We've been blinded by so many things that we've lost sight of the fact that 800 million of our brothers and sisters are hungry to varying degrees. And we lose millions of people to starvation and the effects of starvation every single year. And so it is an urgent humanitarian crisis of gargantuan proportions, 800 million hungry people. And it is so easy to end world hunger, and so we're simply launching the bare minimum solutions that we need to end hunger as quickly as possible. But actually, as we're learning in Rosamond and in Spain and in Japan, in the process of launching a community cafe initiative, you build community. This builds community. Community comes together. And what a beautiful concept of having a community cafe as a place where everyone can come together and eat and and share and get to meet new people and reconnect with old friends, all kinds of good stuff.
So when you close your eyes, what does community cafe look like?
Wait, you say if I close my eyes, what does it look like? What?
What does it look like? Since it's not built yet, what will it look like?
Oh, okay. Look, it's going to look very much like a sort of a cafeteria style food service operation, right? Where you have a kitchen in the back, an industrial sized or industrial strength kitchen, which is actually tremendously efficient. Today, every single Haitian family, that lives in small towns or rural areas, they go out and they chop down firewood to bring back and heat up their own little pot to heat up whatever food they have, and it's devastating to the environment. On the other hand, if we prepared the food in an industrial kitchen, people wouldn't be having to go around and chop down trees, right? So we can avoid so many ecological disasters by simply doing things efficiently. Who said that each of us has to go to our own home, lock the door, fire up our own oven, open up our own fridge? It's kind of absurd, actually. It's kind of like, oh, you want to fly to Japan? Well, get your own small private plane and fly across the Pacific. No, everybody pile into a 747 and let's get this party started. Right? That's how you do things efficiently. Well, this is essentially the 747 of eating, and we're simply so it looks like a cafeteria style thing. Now, depending on which part of the country, in portions of the Middle East, I'm sure it would probably more likely be a tent, than a building, right? So you can imagine some closed air tents, even open air tents, depending on the time of the year and the environment and the ambiance and everything like that. So, but basically think cafeteria style, right? Or if you want to think mess hall. But basically, people come, they get in line. It'll be moving quickly because it's very efficient. Part of the reason it's so efficient is there's no payment. Isn't that brilliant? There's no payment. That's what stops the line from moving. So anyway, you get in line quickly, boom, you're right there with your tray. And there are people behind a big plexiglass hood, so that it's impossible, nearly impossible, extremely sanitary conditions, basically, to protect the food, and properly, trained and washed and certified workers are there, associates are there, serving you the food. So if you want organic quinoa, you point to the organic quinoa, boom. Oh, you want some more, boom. Just say what you want. Uh, where's the checkout stand? It's free. Go, go. And then you go sit at one of the, kind of picnic table style benches or cafeteria style benches, because it's about community as well. It's not just about eating. It's not just about nourishing your body. It's about nourishing your soul, your spirit, your mind, right? And so, just think of how lonely we Americans are. We're tremendously lonely. Well, we're not the only ones. And like, for example, part of the reason we're pioneering the Community Cafe initiative in Spain, because in Spain, they're just amazing about community. They're all about community. Everyone lives in this very communal, community-like setting. I lived in Spain before you girls were born. Give me my tea, dang it, my hot water bottle. No, before you ladies were born, I was living in Spain in '82, '83, and kicking around a soccer ball. It was my freshman year of high school, though I actually did the 8th grade in Spain instead of the freshman year there, so I actually did the 8th grade twice and never did a freshman year. But anyway, it changed my life in so many ways. One of the ways is in terms of the great community they have there, but really the big way was I saw how much poverty there is there, and how the gypsies in Spain lived there at the time. How they live now is a different topic, but at the time, oh my goodness, there was just so much poverty, just abject poverty, and the fact that the gypsies were essentially treated like second-class citizens, right? I mean, almost like they're not even human or something. It was just terrible. And yet, because everyone there had grown up in that environment, in that culture, for them it's just like that's just how it is, yeah. Right? But for me, being American, oh my goodness, I don't think I ever saw a kid on the street, sleeping on the street, or I never saw it. I mean, obviously there are homeless kids, and lots of them across the United States, but I had never seen that where I grew up. And in Spain, it was in my face, kids living on the street. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so it was actually, pretty early on in life that I came up with this concept of a community cafe. I didn't call it that at the time. But, why not simply have communal feeding? Well, look, even if it's rice and beans and cheese and bread, basics of life. Are we so stingy that we can't even provide that? Well, look, it's not that any individual is stingy. It's just that no one has come up with a solution yet. Well, hello world, we've got a solution. Is it the best possible solution? No. That's why we created the Hungerless Games, so that people could come with whatever solutions they have, either solutions that they're already implementing or solutions that are ideas or any place in between, and say, look, why don't we try this? And then we talk about it openly, right? And we actually record the conversations that we have about the different solutions, so that it's very open and transparent. Think of the Hungerless Games as an open source platform for the open source development of solutions to world hunger. Just like, Linux is an open source operating system, well, the Hungerless Games is an open source operating system of sorts. It's an operating system that supports and develops solutions to world hunger. What do you think, Tiffany? Am I flying off the handle too much here, getting too woo-woo, or am I pretty much am I communicating clearly?
It's clear. I have a question though. Where do you plan on getting your organic produce from?
Oh, brilliant question. So, by the way, there's a 14-minute video that I can send you, and I'll send you as soon as we're done. Okay. That goes into that in detail. Can you just post that link, and then it kind of and then anyone who wants to, I'll give you the high level now, but I'm just saying we can maybe post that link. Is that possible?
Okay.
Shanoah?
Can I post what link?
Oh, there's a link that I have to a 14-minute video that goes into more information on this very question. I can give you a high-level answer now, but do you have the ability in your article to say, hey, for more information on this and this and
yes.
this some links? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So here's the high level. The high level is that we're going to be developing what we call compassionate, sustainable agricultural networks in different regions of the world to supply all the food to the community cafes. Now, in the produce, the vast majority of that is going to be local. I see Tiffany just probably accidentally dropped off. I'm sure she'll be back. But most of the produce is going to be locally grown. A lot of the grains may be shipped over long distances, but just because grains are shipped over long distances does not mean that they have to be shipped in a way that has a high carbon footprint. Moving shipping containers at low speeds around the world is actually enormously efficient in terms of minimal carbon released per ton kilometer of product moved. I'm getting kind of down in the weeds there, but really what I'm trying to say is we're gonna source locally as much as possible, and only where we have to go outside. Like, listen, everyone here eats rice, but rice simply doesn't grow in the desert. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to import the rice, right? So that kind of thing. So does that answer your question?
It does, but I have another question now.
Go for it.
Being that we are going to start the ramp down phase from California's drought and us having to conserve our water, where do you plan on getting the water from?
Yeah, the water that people will drink?
The water that you use for the local farming that you'll have.
Ah, gotcha. Well, so here's the thing. We are not going to be, we're not going to own or operate the farms that supply the community cafes. We're going to be buying from local agricultural networks. We will become probably the largest purchaser by far of food in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have tremendous purchasing power. And as such, we have the power and the ability to define and develop standards for the agricultural sector and the food industry generally, which will be broadly adopted by anyone who wants to sell to us. So we get to orchestrate the network in a way, even though we don't own and control it. So really, it's up to the local market, it's up to the local governments, it's up to the local agricultural sector to do whatever they're going to do. We're simply going to seek to buy from those existing farmers who meet all of our criteria.
Okay. So the criteria would be that it would be organic.
Well, organic is one very important criteria. There may be some cases where non-organic is justified in terms of the holistic big picture. If taking a non-organic food. Welcome back, Tiffany. Welcome back.
Sorry, phone died. I mean, my laptop died. My apologies.
No worries. So there may be some non-organic solutions that are overall much more sustainable than going organic. I'm actually not an expert in that. I just don't want to slam the door completely on anything non-organic, but the preference is organic for sure. But it's not just organic. It's also sustainable, and it's also compassionate. So sustainable, for example, you could buy organic beef that's incredibly unsustainable for the planet. You can buy organic pork that's insanely unsustainable for the planet. But so it's not just organic, it's sustainable. And so by sustainable, we don't necessarily mean 100% vegetarian or vegan, because it turns out there are ways to raise livestock which are not just sustainable, but actually healing to the planet. Mm-hmm. As amazing as that may sound, and I'll include a link to this amazing 20-minute Alan Savory TED Talk on that very topic, which actually has some relevance for some desertifying regions, including California, which is now at risk of growing desertification. So all of this is to say that through our tremendous purchasing power of the community cafes around the world, we're going to be able to orchestrate a very benevolent transformation of the agriculture and food sectors.
Sounds good. It sounds like you reached all the points. I do have one more though.
Sure.
What can the people of Rosamond do to help support Community Cafe?
Wonderful. So the single most important thing they can do right now is to actually join the conversation on the hungerless games, because and also to take and in the process broaden the perspective from just the community cafe to the bigger picture. And when looking at the bigger picture and the overall goal of ending world hunger by 2020 through application of community cafes and other solutions, what I'd really like to ask the people of Rosamond is to join not just the online community on radish.org of the Hungerless Games, but also join the in-person local community led by Crystalline Rodriguez, who I showed in the photograph. She actually graduated from high school in Rosamond, so she's local and has amazing contacts in the community, as you can imagine. Amazing person. So join the in-person community led by Crystalline Rodriguez in Rosamond, and also join the online community, which Tiffany and I and the Satos and Jay and Eric and many others who are on our team are all actively participate on. Join the conversation. We want to talk, and we're so happy to be talking with you, Shanoah. In fact, anytime you want to have a follow-up conversation, we'll be delighted to do it, because you're like our mouthpiece for Rosamond. And likewise, we would like for Rosamond to become a very important mouthpiece for the world. In fact, I know Tiffany's going to be spending some time in Rosamond. I think Tiffany's currently in New York, and then she'll go down to see some media partners in Atlanta, and then she's in Los Angeles. So anyway, Tiffany is just amazing at what she does, and see, Tiffany is really our big kind of one of our basically the biggest way that all of us can support this is to get involved. Just get into it, join the conversation, go to local meetings, join an online hangout, or watch some of the videos, learn about the different aspects, learn about the different solutions that we're developing for world hunger. And then when you see the community cafe in its proper big picture perspective, you're going to say, wow, let's make this happen ASAP right here in Rosamond. What can we do to launch the first community cafe, a permanent community cafe in Rosamond? Where would be a good place to locate it? What kind of menus do we want to develop? Basically, join the initiative, the local initiative led by Crystalline Rodriguez in launching the first permanent community cafe in Rosamond.
Is she already holding meetings, local meetings?
She is when she's not in Spain. Right now she's in Spain working with other members of the Community Cafe Initiative in Spain, in Torrejón. And in fact, we can post a link to the meeting that we just had so you can meet Crystalline and her relatives, including her mother, her uncle, her grandparents, who are supporting this effort. Just amazing. The whole family is coming together.
Nice.
And they're working with local government. See, just like we're making this a big thing in Southern California, thanks to your efforts and Tiffany's amazing leadership and just really the whole team. Likewise, we're going to make this a big thing in Spain, in all of Latin America, all around the world. There's not a single country in the world that we're not interested in participating in, because even if you tell me, oh, what about a country like Luxembourg or Liechtenstein or Switzerland where everyone's rich? Well, shoot, put community cafes there. Just make sure you got a really big donation jar. What self-respecting, rich Swiss national out on a dinner date with his girlfriend is not going to dump a bunch of Swiss francs into the jar, right?
Yeah.
Like, that for them would be the equivalent of littering on the street. I think you even get spanked for that in Switzerland. But anyway, you get my point. No, it's Singapore. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that sounds good. You covered everything. I didn't have to ask anything. You covered it all.
I'm really glad to hear that. I am at your service, Shanoah. And in fact, so this will be posted as a YouTube video, if that's okay with you. I would actually invite everyone to post their comments right here on this YouTube video. We're working on developing some of the sign-up forms and the post your idea here forum, that kind of thing, on Radish itself and on the Hungerless Games within Radish. But in the meantime, let's just use the tools that we have. Please feel free to post your questions and comments on this very YouTube video, and Tiffany and I and others from our team we'll come back and we'll be able to address whatever questions people have.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, Shanoah, Tiffany, thank you both very much. It's been wonderful hanging out with you ladies, and I look forward to our next opportunity to see each other live.